up and alive. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ancient Spires. Here on the right side of the map, we have Northwest NakanoMikuS, i.e. Shineko, versus TheLastMongos playing the Ottomans. English versus Ottomans. I don't know. I don't see this matchup a ton. Got the stone coming in. That's pretty standard. Get that 100 to get the military school up. There it goes. I know military school, it probably isn't super good into English because of the longbow, the bows on the vills. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, military school when you're playing against English is not the build. Usually for some of the meta here, and it looks like he's going for a straggler tree as well, which I respect. I'm going to try to go for a mining camp afterward. The one thing why I think if he's going for this long scale military school in the beginning kind of build, he has the map to do so. And if you take a look at this map, we have a giant pond that's creating some kind of forward defense for him. A rather aquatic defense, and he's got some forest on the northeastern side of his base, which is going to be like he's got an easily wallable territory. One of the things for Ottomans that I think they do better than French these days is they have a good feudal snowball going. They can get their military schools to produce some free units. They get the meta to have some increased attack speed, or ranged armor, whatever they'd like to pick, and he's gonna have the safety behind this to quickly go up if he wanted to use a second town center. So based on just the map spawns themselves, I think Ottoman's got a good one.
Yeah, I think they have a solid one. I agree. Even the trade isn't too difficult to wall off. You could wall from trees to here and then here to here if you were looking to maybe go for some Ottoman trade and stuff too. So yeah, as we kind of mentioned previously talking about the map, fairly wallable, fairly defensive. It looks a little more open than I'm used to, though. Especially on this backside here, it looks quite open, so maybe not as closed as some of the versions that I've seen where it feels real compact. But yeah, English, not doing... It does have a mill, getting the wheelbarrow, so maybe we'll start seeing some farms coming down at some point. Is onto the straggler tree, so I don't know if this is like super normal for English, but it looks like he's gonna be rushing up to that feudal age, maybe in preparing for the spearman onslaught. But yeah, so we'll have to see how that pans out. But again, I just don't even think you need a longbowman because these bad boys do 5 damage at 5 tile range. Council hall on the front side. Decent placement, I think. It does create a fairly decent choke point on the front end of this map. Is space for a farm here. If you built like a mill here, you could put farms there or whatever. So not the worst spot in the world. We'll just have to see how it plays out. Spearman looking menacingly, coming in. Looks like we're lagging a little bit, so we might pause in just a second here.
Yeah, this front spearman here from Mongo trying to get some shots off.
Is in
not
range,
gonna let him
though.
do that.
Yeah.
And the council hall, just because it was a little forward, a little bit of idle time coming in, but honestly, those villagers can just sit there and continue to build. It's not going to matter. Yeah,
pretty solid, as Neri said. Pretty solid English spawn. I like the Ottomans a little bit better, I think, but yeah, not bad. Stone on the backside. As we talked about, fairly wallable, and not a lot of like helpful resources in the base as far as like there is berries here, but the deer are kind of forward here, so that as far as going for those kind of external resources, they wouldn't necessarily do that. But they have, looks like most of the fish are actually on the backside of the pond here too, so that's not super cool for them.
Well, I mean, you're also operating under the assumption that English give a shit about outside food resources.
Yeah, well, that was kind of my point behind that, was that even with them being on this backside here where it's not great for them and these aren't great for them, they don't particularly care. So they do have some space to build farms, and kind of go from there. But we will pause for just a second, try and catch up on some of this stutter. And yeah, is on there, is adding farms in. right there on the tippy-tip corner, trying to be real efficient about how they do it. And I think this way you can fit 10 farms, technically, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4, and then 2 and 2. So, you know, good usefulness on this early mill, minimizing the amount of wood you have to input into those. Some Scoutle combat going on. It looks like they're on exactly the frame swings. That's hilarious. Ottomans going with a dock. Not something you normally see on these kind of maps. I think it's definitely doable, but is an interesting choice. Build 1 or 2 or even 3 fishing boats. And, you know, kind of acts as little mini TCs almost.
Yeah, it's pretty uncommon on something like Spires, just because the deep water fish aren't there. But it does, after those fishing ships do get all of the shoreline fish that are around, they're kind of null and void. So usually we don't see a lot of docks on Spires, but you know, for the Ottomans, instead of making a second TC, it could operate as one for at least a short time.
Yeah, and we see 1, 2. I think, you know, over investing. Obviously, you don't want like 12 fishing boats on here, but do you see a later wheelbarrow coming in? Completed quite a bit earlier by Miku, our friend in the English. But we'll be adding in a later wheelbarrow, so evening out that eco balance, even on Vils, 4 to 5 army. Yeah, in this military school, not paying off a huge amount, but does have it to instantly start training some free archers as soon as the spearman's out of the way. And I think Sapahi archer is going to be pretty strong into the English.
You know, kind of interesting. I usually see the military schools training the Sapahi, just because, you know, with military schools, obviously they have access to books, so horseback riding, stuff like that, really important for the Sapahi. But in serious note, the just because of resources, you know.
It's cheaper to make archers by a decent margin.
Right, and the only thing you're giving up is a little bit of extra production time.
Yeah.
Because of that, but he's going for more of a swiftness to the mass that he's making with his Sapahi and his spearmen. And I completely understand why. English is trying to get the ball rolling, trying to get to castle. Ottoman's trying to not let that happen.
Yeah, is going to charge in, walk around those little pokey sticks. Spearman going in for the dive. A little stutter still. He might have to pause again. Catch back up. But he's running onto the backside, and I think it's interesting. Oh, does get this kill off on it, though. And the spearman kind of ran over here and tried to do some harass on there instead of sticking onto the longbows. Didn't quite get the villager. And I think maybe just wait until that second Sapaki's there, and that would have caused a lot more damage.
Yeah, I think for him right now, especially because Miko, or Shineko, or whatever he's supposed to be called, is at just about the castle age button, and he's about to click it probably after I'm done finishing the sentence. You're gonna need a little bit more of a mass to disrupt this from happening, and he's doing a super good job at the pace that he's going for. He's putting King's Palace outside the south side by the deer in a particularly berateable area with the amount of longbowmen that he has, but Mongo's never gonna see it. He doesn't have a scout around here.
Yeah, does put it on the backside of this wood line to maybe help secure some of that. So on the deer, maybe just barely covering some of this stone. I think, you know, you could have gone out a little bit more, because I think the difference between, like, here and here, although, again, the English don't really need the food, but if I'm going to place a second town center, I'm going to place it, like, right here. I got the fish, I got 2 deer packs, and that'd be pretty fat for anybody else but the English, but they don't particularly care. Scout, going to be close. Sapahi, 3 of them here now, going to be a little bit more of a threat. Even if they do get stunned a little bit, it won't matter too much. Scout taking up some damage. 1 longbow goes down. Archer shooting on the backside, and looks like TheLastMongo is going to be able to clean this up a little bit. 13 to 5 army, 13 to 4, 14 to 4. So growing while Miku was castle aging, not making any units. And the gold villagers have to retreat, and is going to be pushed off of that gold. But with 500 gold, you have to think it doesn't matter all that much.
Yeah, he does have a little bit of a stockpile, so he'll be able to get upgrades if he wants to. The Sapahi with 3 ranged armor now is going to come in with some TC fire. Villagers getting a little cheeky shot off. Oh, good job by them as well. But he is going to lose some Sapahi in the process trying to raid these villagers.
Yeah, is going to get 1 kill here. and clean up that army. It's just the single longbow there. Get another Vil kill here, and has completely idled the wood line. 11, 13, 12 garrisoned idle. Even if you're losing the, you know, maybe not losing all these Sapaki is a good idea. But I think, you know, before he had tossed the rest of them away, it was a pretty good trade. Idling all that idle time, they're still idle, and they're just now barely getting back to work. Sitting on 7 wood, can't add any more farms, just barely able to add in a barracks to get some spearmen. And yeah, you know, on the wood on this backside finally. And is going to need to kind of over-invest into wood choppers to kind of compensate for a lot of that idle time.
Yeah, and I mean, he does have a lot here because you got Thin King's Palace on the opposite side as well. But Sapahi trying to get in the north side, trying to get a little bit of a raid going, trying to break this English turtle shell. But now that stable is going to be pumping out some knights, I think Mongo's going to be a little too late.
Yeah. Yeah, knights coming in do, you know, a little bit better than Sapahi. More spearmen in queue though, so maybe ooh, a meter coming in as well. 15% attack speed, not on the Sapahi raiding in, but it is idling that that wood line yet again. Kills another archer and is going to bail out before he loses one, and that's pretty good. And so decent jobs here for TheLastMongo to do some harass and idle a lot of those Vils.
Yeah, we'll see if he can actually keep the pressure on. He keeps going back and forth in with these raids, bring the meta in this time, trying to use the Sound of Music to pick off a Vill or two. And it looks like
Gotta be careful though. Don't want to lose it. The villagers, oh, they target the spearmen. Looks like maybe they're trying to target the meta, but he micros it out. The knight coming in, I think you should probably take this fight. I guess with all the Vils, maybe not. Another meta coming in. I think having 2 is probably where you want to stop. You don't want to overinvest into them, but make sure you have a couple in case something gets stomped out. But yeah, this is kind of the problem where he had that stockpile, but then used a lot of it for knights and the like, and is now forced to bring 14 Vils out onto the gold to try and recoup some of that idle time that was forced onto him. And while he's on 2 TCs, it is an even Vil count, just barely taken ahead now. So Mongo doing a really solid job of delaying that while he goes up with the MIA.
And that's one of the great things about the Ottomans that we're seeing here. There's Metter, there's Sapahi, there's Spearmen, all that kind of stuff. Really only using, you know, 1 or 2 stables to produce his Metter, but on the flip side, he has military schools just pumping out free units, so he's not losing too much in terms of resources, and trying to hold on a little bit of a map control. English can't do any counter raids while the MIA is going up.
We do see relics coming in. Miku having the heads up that I'm ahead for at least a little bit. Just barely. Mango takes over just now, but no monasteries, nothing coming out for him quite yet. Theoretically, could do like the Imam Vizier point, and then get some, you know, insta guys to go grab some relics. But we'll see if that ends up coming into play. Puppy Guard in this middle one. And it looks like really only the one was safe to grab, right on the back side of this hill here. And the rest are kind of in the middle or fairly unsafe to go reach out to if you're not careful. So, not a lot of relic gameplay in quite yet, but does get one. We'll get that slow little trickle of 80 gold. Does finally get an outpost up front, which you'll love to see. Gonna give him that bonus clear out to here, and that'll, I think, help make a huge difference. And so we're gonna see Knight Archers versus Spearmen, Sapahi, and a Mangonel coming out from that Mehmed Imperial Army about halfway done.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the MIA for the Ottomans. We talked about in the last English game about the use of siege against the English and how important it is. It's super nice that you're able to, as the Ottomans get some of that siege, 1, start producing instantaneously, and 2, for free.
Yeah, something you'll love to see. I don't know if he's making it out of, yeah, he's making Janissaries out of both military schools, which I think is a super, super cool choice. You don't see them used a lot because they're going to take some decent damage from the longbows, but if you can use these, clean up this fight, actually, surprisingly well. I don't know where all those knights went. There are 3 somewhere. I'm not totally sure where they're at, though. Not at home defending. And that's going to be a problem for him because those knights are kind of his barricade against these Sapahi, just running them over. And now it's 29-7 army. Mango looking really solid. Going to get some more Vil kills. 5 dead. Looks like 6 is going to be dead. And Miku really struggling to kind of multitask about what's going on. Knights finally coming out, warding off some of that fights, but is now only 7 ahead after being on 2 TCs for a decent bit of time now. Losing out on 6 of them. And Mongo not really losing any value with the free units he's getting. And the Mangonel does come out, along with some Janissaries, which are going to help protect against those Knights. They do a metric shit ton of damage to cavalry. 32 damage.
Yeah, one of the when I'm looking at English's economic build here, and the bottom does end up putting it down a mill near these deer, but because of the English farms and the improvements that they have, these Ottoman docks actually working surprisingly well and keeping up with the English's food income and keeping him in the game.
Yeah. Because, they act as little mini TCs, right? So he has 4 extra vills here, 6 extra vills. So he, instead of being at 43, he's at 53, right? All while getting a decent rate on those shorefish. But is going to kill the little priesty boy. Dies for what he loves. And I think Mango has a decent chance here to just take this fight. Good little surround. Nice micro on his side. Beautiful movements. And then those Janissaries just going to start mowing down those Knights. Look, it just melts. Those Longbowmen going to die to the Sipahi, and Mika's going to be in trouble here against this Ottoman mass.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a micro issue for Nakano, and I think these Longbowmen got a good job taking hits on the Sipahi, not so much on the Janissaries, because all 8 are still here with barely any health. The issue is, now that the Sipahi going down, the Longbowmen having free range on the Janissaries, Mongo's got to back up before he loses.
Yeah, those Men-at-Arms actually doing a decent job at taking out some of the Sipahi. That tanky unit without playing into the Janissary's strengths. It was a good read by him. And is able to hold off that army, but lost basically all of his Knights and a good chunk of his longbows. Meanwhile, Mango just continually masses most of these units for free. And now that the Mangonel's in here, it's going to completely change how these fights play out.
But see, I think the network of castles for the English has such a good synergistic benefit with the Men-at-Arms, because the one things that we talk about with the Men-at-Arms being like, oh, they don't deal that much damage, they're more of a tank factor, this kind of thing, but give them that attack speed bonus, and they kind of become superheroes. They're good at just about anything that you would want out of a melee unit.
Yeah, fast attack speed, tankiness, 12 damage isn't nothing, it's nothing to scoff at, that's for sure. They match the damage of the Sipahi while having actually melee armor. So the Sipahi not going to be great at tanking those up. He's looking to maybe snag these up, and that's going to be the 3rd relic out for Nakano.
Yeah, he has super good presence of mind trying to get these relics, and at the same time this battle coming in. Take it away.
Yeah, the Mangonel's going to be firing off a shot. Going to be stuck kind of on the backside, pushing away from a little bit. I'd like to see him kind of stay close to that as the Knights are going to be able to move in. The Janissaries just wiping those Knights out, though, and that's why you never want to build those horsemen when you see those things. And we have, about 19 Men-at-Arms here, and I don't think Mango's going to have such a great time with this Mango fighting against this pile of Men-at-Arms. They're going to be able to clean up most of this fight, and Miku really good heads-up play here with this Men-at-Arm tech switch. Mango not having the units to deal with it, continually just massing Janissaries that do 16 damage, so it's not, nothing to scoff at, but with 6 melee armor, they're doing only about 10 a pop, and 155 health, that you're going to need 16 Janissaries to one-shot a Men-at-Arms, and that's a lot of Janissaries to try and stockpile. But it does look like Men-at-Arms are going to taking some damage from the second Mangonel that come out, and the it's close, but the army numbers are looking in the favor of TheLastMongo at the end of this. And Miku gonna have to try and resupply. Springle coming out. Can he pick it off? Janissary's gonna be shooting at it. Does back up, so it doesn't even get a shot out. But did have to target fire it down, so his Men-at-Arms getting a lot of return damage under that network of castles, like you were saying. Nice in the second Mango shot. Yeah, and the fight's gonna get cleaned up. It's just so even almost. It's kind of crazy how well they're trading back and forth, where there's just no end to this kind of brawl. But it looks like the Men-at-Arms are going to become victorious. They have the home bonus of spawning here and running to here for the fight. More Sipahi, and I would really, really like to see Mango maybe back off in tech switch. Looks like he has 8 crossbowmen now. And I think once those get here, that's going to really make a big difference for this fight. Does have a decent flow to resources, though, so while he is producing a lot of units and throwing a lot of weights, now 42 to 8 army. And Miku's constantly cranking units and is kind of stuck having to make all these Men-at-Arms to defend, while Mango is stocking up and looking like maybe even thinking about going to Imperial at some point here. Maybe buying his way there eventually.
Yeah, for
Springles fired off.
For Mongo, these Sipahi are just kind of acting as tank units for the Janissaries to come in, but now with the ultimate tech switch, like you said with the crossbowmen, these Men-at-Arms are going to be shredded so much quicker than just having Janissaries in the back. And with a military count of 46 to 8, the Sipahi in the back going to be able to take the siege out. Mongo might have free reign over these English production buildings, which means he can't mass up troops anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he's switching out to Spearmen to try to just get something out to fight against, you know, these crossbowmen and Janissaries, which the Spearmen are going to do okay at. But again, it's constant production, and Miku's just having to spend every last dollar he has. Meanwhile, his eco's getting raided by these Sipahi, who take no damage from ranged damage. And the front line gets cleaned up, and NakanoMikuS really struggling here to try and hold off this just incessant wave of army from the Ottomans. Because, I mean, just every time you turn around, there's just another pile of guys here. And is just going, again, mass Men-at-Arms, 12 Men-at-Arms there. We got 4 crossbowmen here, some scouts to kind of see what's going on, some more Sipahi and guys trickling in. And the Ottomans just doing Ottoman things and just constantly making units.
And that's the big difference, too, because look at the middle. If you wanted to get away from this fight for just a second when some of those Men-at-Arms coming in on the Janissaries, this production bolus of Mongo, multiple stables, I'm counting 4 archery ranges here, 4 military schools. So as far as production, even though, you know, there's a lot of barracks coming out with these Men-at-Arms, they're not able to mass, and with a military count of 57 to 13, Nakano needs time, and he's never going to be able to get any.
Never time, because the moment he tries to stop, like you saw those resources piling up, and that's when he started losing these fights. But again, more Sipahi on the backside fighting these villagers, and now he's just camping on the production. It does get enough for a keep finally, but we'll see if this keep is able to even go up. 7 Men-at-Arms going to defend it, and it looks like it might go up. They're going to make some rams right on the front here, maybe try and smash down some of these barracks, and like you said, just a constant trickle of units, couple siege workshops. I'd like to see a blacksmith up here producing this a little bit faster. And yeah, TheLastMongo just doing exactly what he wants to do, and Miku just every last ounce of anything he has is to hold against this. But is getting the Springald replacement. I would have maybe liked to seen Network instead, but maybe he doesn't have the resources for it. He just barely does now. Because I think the network of citadels is going to make a huge difference here. Another 25% attack speed on those Men-at-Arms and stuff. But the production is dying off. I don't see too much more being added anywhere. So we'll start slowing down that capabilities of Miko to do much here, actually, too. So that's going to be pretty heads-up play with those rams, even if they do end up dying and stuff. But yeah, the fight is going on. Mango's getting some good shots. 65 to 16 army. And even with the keeper, I just don't think there's a whole lot Miko can do. While having a superior eco, the Ottomans, I think, just balance that out with all the free stuff they get. On top of all the bonuses they get producing. Because on top of all this, he's getting tons of Vizier points. Yeah, and it's looking pretty bad for Miko, despite what the eco counts might say.
Yeah, the one thing Miku could really be helping out his own cause here is you see a big ranged mass of Mongo, 41 Janissaries and a little bit of crossbowmen sprinkled in there as well. The only thing that's really going to stop this is a Mangonel.
Yeah, well, and he's been trying. That's the thing. He has been made a few of them, but those handful of Sipahi are able to just micro around everything.
Yeah, and that's why I agree with the fact that he had a keep there. You know, now that he has that keep there, he's got a little bit of a foothold. He's able to put those mangonels somewhat near it, so Mongo can't creep in as far.
Yeah.
And that's when we transition from mangonels on the side of Mongo to adding in some trebs. And I mean, I'll say it probably for the 4th or 5th time because we've seen English in just about every game we've casted so far.
Yeah.
How do you break that shell down? You hurl a fucking rock at it.
You hurl a fucking rock at it. Yeah, so we'll take a peek at some farms in here now that there's a little bit of a lull. We got double ranged armor, some melee damage. Meanwhile, Miku, because he's constantly been making units, hasn't had a moment to breathe to spare any resources onto anything but a couple eco upgrades. So the last Mongo doing a good job there. His economy is looking solid. Lots of free production. Good farms coming out. Has a relic. Could pick up this one in the middle. Has a fairly decent control. But is pushing in. This Mangonel's going to take some good shots onto these Men-at-Arms, and even though they're not technically made to counter them, 12 damage in a big cluster like that's quite a bit. The Janissaries, though, going down. There's that Mangonel you were talking about, doing a good job just shredding through them. They do spread out. Sapagi coming in, going to kill the Springald before it's able to get his last shot off. But the network of Citadels is, or network of, I guess it's Citadels after that upgrade. That's not changing. 50% attack speed and is able to repel this. It's just so strong. And I think throwing your army underneath this is just a terrible, terrible mistake. Knight's getting some raids in, though, but it's about 30 vills down. Men-at-Arms going to be getting onto the trebuchets as well. Yeah, and just threw his units into the meat grinder there. I think definitely just wait. Start having one treb shoot at him. The trebs can shoot from well outside this range, and if you're standing here, these men-at-arms have to leave the one thing giving them an advantage in these fights. And so you slow. There's no reason to hard force like that. No reason to throw your whole army underneath this keep, giving all these mangonels and men-at-arms this bonus damage. I also, he's still hard sticking with these Janissaries, and I just don't know if that's necessarily the call. I mean, imagine if all those extra Janissaries had been crossbows. Maybe that fight looks a lot different too. So a little something to think about. Maybe switching if your enemy is hard tech switch into Men-at-Arms. There's 35 of those suckers sitting there. Crossbows probably the play.
The one thing that I will say from Mongo, and you did, harp on the fact he did bring his units into a meat grinder, which yes, we did see, but from the fact that you scouted in the middle of this game that this gold that's forward here, he's obviously not on. The gold that Miku had in his base, he obviously doesn't have anything either. And when you get what's going to propel you to the next level is you have to think, where's he going to go next to get that gold? Yeah. He's cranking out men-at-arms in a rather alarming pace. He's got to get gold from somewhere. And he has had 18 villagers up on a top gold mine for probably the past 8 or 9 minutes. And if he even just sent 1 or 2 knights there, think about how much military production gets stalled because of that.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. And he, because of that, got a good little sneak out of the backside of this base over here around the back. And Mongo, just so hard focused, maybe a little bit of tunnel vision. Does run out of the gold now, though. Is going to move on to this next one. And there might be a little bit of a villager brawl. Ooh, keep coming down, though. And I don't think he's going to see this coming at all. He won't. And so that'll be a really good boon for Miku, as he puts a keep onto this thing and goes up with the Windguard Palace as well. So was able to stabilize this fight. And the last Mongo, having a lot of trouble breaking the shell because I just really think that one fight where he threw them all underneath was kind of the thing that gave Miku the time to breathe. Because it was looking really good for the last Mongo. He was bringing in those trebs. If he could have just stopped, sieged it down, and like you said, maybe even just checked other spots, I think it would have helped a lot. But here we go with the big fight. They're moving in. Janissaries not able to repair up the trebs from these, from a couple Sprinkled shooting some stuff. The Knight's trying to swing around, but the Men-at-Arms pulling back. Oh my word! three mangonel shots. Yeah, just wipe the army out. And those Janissaries is not going to be doing a lot of damage to these men-at-arms. There was some crossbows looked in there, but yeah, it's looking pretty bad from TheLastMongo now. Doesn't even see that when he switched over to this, all his villagers died. So this is going to put him at a 50 villager deficit now. And Miku's really to eke out of this little hole that he was kind of dug into. And with the Windguard Palace coming up, wherever it came up at, there it is on the front line there. Would love to see him press that enclosures button, and that would just solidify his gold, kind of the rest of this game, and put Mongo in a real tight spot here.
Oh my god, that mango shot is like that. Every time somebody builds a mangonel, that's what they fantasize about.
Yeah,
like so many Janissaries and crossbowmen coming down, and Nakano had the springolds to be able to take down the trebuchets and the mangleds on the other side. Mongo is still using the old feudal to castle age technique of using Sapahi, and it takes a long time for them to do that because of the because of the mass of the men-at-arms that are there. So, man, Mongo could have had this game if he microed some of those ranged units and had to keep up here to try to help him out here on the defensive side. He's continuing to throw units out, and Miku now halfway to his Imperial Age upgrades. There might not be any Mongos left.
But only 52 to 12 army, though, and while he does have those Imperial upgrades coming in, has actually lost a good amount of that. You know, Mongo now 30, doing what he should have done about 10 minutes ago, which is massing those crossbowmen into those men-at-arms. Because, you know, the crossbowmen aren't going to be something to scoff at with knights either, and so they kind of do the double counter as opposed to the Janissaries, which is hyper counter the knights. But Keep will be going down. It's pulling some people to repair it, but I don't know if it'll be enough. Yeah, and is now 57 to 6 on the army. Stalled out a little bit that age up with the upgrades, because those upgrades are not cheap. That's going to come in, but that's just going to instantly die. Ooh, maybe though. It'll be close. Does have the cannon placement now, and that'll back him off, and he really needs to pull back out of here until he can kill this. 4 trebs, so he has more people just trickling on in. I wonder where those other trebuchets are coming in from. Probably from this backside over here. Somewhere. There are 4... Oh, is it... Does it count each as 2? Is that what I'm looking at right now?
Yeah, it might. One of the things that Stephen Loki said in chat, it kind of means more production buildings. Yeah. For how much he has in queue, he can obviously spare the wood to do so. And I think a little bit on the Mongo side, how he can improve is try to find some raidable areas. You know, there's a lot of farm land up here on this upper side of the English base that's easily raidable. And I think this is a classic case of tunnel vision that you described.
Oh, 100%.
He is just throwing everything he has right into this keep, and after a certain amount of time, you gotta think there's a different way to skin this cat.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just something that you have to think about, where it's like you had mentioned earlier. He's making a lot of men-at-arms, right? He has 25 men-at-arms, each costing 20 gold. That's, you know, a lot of gold. And he's been doing this non-stop. So then it begs the question, where in the holy hell is he getting his gold at? And you go, okay, well, he's getting his gold somewhere else. But if his whole army's been here fighting me, and I have just countless guys trickling across the map, it would take virtually nothing for him to just run guys up. He's even supplying men-at-arms from this keep as well, running into the backside of this. And he might need to get onto these hills.
And that's the thing about English that is so frustrating to play against, is you're making the counter, you're making the crossbowman, you're doing the things that you're supposed to do. The thing of it is, even though you said, yeah, where's he getting the gold? That was in Castle Age. Imperial Age enclosures are in for Nakano, and just based on that little bit of a gold trickle, he can just make these elite men-at-arms until 2024.
Yeah. Yep, and he can just infinitely make them, and is now getting pushed back, is pushed off his gold, is going for a forward keep finally. Something we had mentioned before. This farther back one is not quite docked ordered. But I don't even know if this is going to get up with this whole pile of men-at-arms here. All the villagers are just going to die. Yeah, 146 to 60 vills, over double the villagers for Miku. and just farms there. We got farms galore back here. Look at that. Beautiful.
And this is the difference if you zoom in on this keep here. Second keep obviously never going up just because of how many villagers were there. But these elite men-at-arms, they got 216 health. They got a lot of armor. They can just run past this keep or siege it down if it wants to. And they choose to bring their torches out. They're going to be able to do that. The Ottoman keep doesn't have boiling oil, so it doesn't matter anyway. These men-at-arms are just way, way too tanky to be able to be stopped now. And I don't think for Mongo, just because of, one, the villager count that he has, and two, the amount of resources coming in, his production buildings, he can't compete with this. This is late gaming. You can't compete with it.
There is 42 men-at-arms out and 60 in queue, and he just calls it. He knows he's lost. Miku doing a really good job holding. I think in part due to Mongo's